Okay, I'm back, Biff. We'll do those 2 comedy clips. Actually, I'll try and get the late night comedy into jokes, and then 2 comedy clips. Then I'll go straight to McCabe, assuming he calls, which he said he would. Okay.
Diabetes, 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
West Virginia Northern Community College will host its fall open house, both in person and virtually, on Saturday, November 6th, from 9 a.m. to noon. Both formats allow you to learn about programs, admissions, financial aid, and more. If you attend in person in New Martinsville, Wheeling, or Weirton, you can also tour the campus. Everyone participating in Northern's open house could win a $1,000 scholarship. For more information, visit wvncc.edu.
Are you traveling? Working a little bit too much? Is your fur baby starting to get a little shaggy? Let Dirty Paws be your one-stop shop for all of your pet care needs. Stop in and see us at 202 18th Street or give us a call at 304-639-7754 to schedule your appointments for dog grooming, doggy daycare, and dog boarding today.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your football Friday. Plenty of sunshine to go around with a daytime high near 50 degrees. Overnight low rather chilly, near 28 under partly cloudy skies. Plenty of sunshine again for your Saturday, with highs in the mid to upper 50s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
What day is it?
Today is Friday.
Is it Friday?
Big weekend.
Really?
Really.
Get ready to turn your clocks back 1 hour this Sunday.
This weekend, you're going to need to turn your clock back 1 hour.
Daylight saving time.
I thought we were literally saving daylight.
Set all of our clocks back.
The change happens at 2 a.m. Sunday.
You gotta set clocks back.
Should have changed your clock. Which way does it go? Spring forward, fall back.
It's showtime.
Live and local in the Ohio Valley, this is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Still 27 degrees across the board. 27 at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 27 here at the home studios. 27 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Looking nice outside. Just took a quick check out on the deck during the news break, and sun's out, looking good. The sun's actually warm. I feel the sun, but it's a cold morning. We'll get up to close to 50. 49 is what Aaron's calling for. It's going to be sunny all weekend long. Some clouds will roll in on Monday, but enjoy a nice, actually cloud. It'll be sunny on Monday too. Clouds will roll in on Tuesday. So nice stretch of sunshine and blue skies and warmer temperatures. 50 today, mid 50s, close to 60 over the weekend. So not too bad. Hopefully you have a good weekend planned. I am so far off time. Biff and I often discuss this off the air. I try, Biff. I try so hard. I really do. You know.
Oh yeah.
I just am always off time. One of the things I always like to do on Friday are the Friday funnies. So before I get to John McCabe, who some people feel when he and I get together are the Friday funnies, I want to get to our Friday comedy bits. So let's do a couple of quick things here to send you off with a little bit of laughter on your face before we talk about the news of the Ohio Valley. Here's what some of the late night comedians were doing last night on TV.
I heard that there's a potentially faster spreading Delta variant moving through the U.S. called Delta Plus. It's basically the Delta variant, but if you get it, you can also stream movies and shows for $13.
We started giving the vaccine to kids aged 5 and up. Finally, our kids will be able to go to bars and nightclubs again. Isn't that great?
A week after renaming their company Meta, Facebook has learned that there's already another tech company called Meta, and they won't sell their name for less than $20 million. When asked why they didn't do their research, Facebook said, we did, we just did it on Facebook.
A new study suggests men feel more heartbroken than women after a breakup. The study is entitled Dateline.
Late night comedy from last night. A couple of stand-up bits I wanted to share with you. I always do it on Friday, on our Friday funnies. You know, middle age, sometimes it's hard to define. What is middle age? How do you know you're middle age? I mean, you know when you're young, and you know when you're old. I know I'm old. But how do you know when you're middle aged? We actually had some thoughts about this in this stand-up comedy bit.
I love my little dog so much, but she makes me think about myself in a new way, and I don't appreciate that. I like to think that I am like a young, cool, radical punk. But when I'm in my weatherproof jacket, and I'm walking my little chihuahua, and she's in her weatherproof jacket, I'm like, oh, I'm a middle-aged white lady. Oh, my goodness. Oh, gosh. Better go drink some yogurt and misuse some emojis. Like, I know my place. Not everybody reads me as middle-aged, but I know that I'm middle-aged because I have a formula for it. Some of you guys might be middle-aged right now and not even realize it. Here's my formula. If you can take the age that you're at now, double it, die, and it's not a tragedy, you're middle-aged. That's one of my favorite sounds right there. The earlier sound was the very specific sound of 34-year-olds reluctantly doing math. And it's very specific.
I actually love that. And it's that's a great way to define middle age. Take your age and double it. She said 34. Double it, 68. I'm 68. If that age, if you were to die, would not be a shock to people, you're middle-aged. I think that's a great way to look at it. And it probably will open up some eyes of people who actually are middle-aged. Finally, in comedy, because I love Jerry Seinfeld, I always try and do a Seinfeld bit. It was Halloween this past weekend, so Jerry is remembering what he was when he was a kid, which was Superman.
So I had my little costume. I was physically ready. I was preparing myself. I did not try on the costume prior to Halloween. Do you remember this? This is an obscure one, but on the side of the box, I remember this on my Superman costume. It actually said, "Do not attempt to fly." They printed that as a warning because kids were putting it on and going off the roofs. You know. I love the idea of the kid who's stupid enough to think he actually is Superman, but smart enough to check that box before he goes off the roof. So anyway, but my hopes were up. I was thinking that this is probably the same exact costume that Superman wears himself. You put these things on, it's not exactly the super fit that you are hoping for. It looks more like Superman's pajamas is what it looks like. It's all kind of loose and flowing, and the neckline kind of comes down about there. Flimsy little ribbon string in the back. Plus my mother makes me wear my winter coat over the costume anyway. I don't recall Superman wearing a jacket. Not like I had cheap corduroy, phony fur. Boy, I'm Superman, but it's a little chilly out, and I'm glad I've got this cheap little 10-year-old kid's jacket.
I love Seinfeld. You know, though, Biff, there's actually a serious point he made there. He said, you know, he's joking about it. It says on the costume, don't try to fly. And he says, who's stupid enough to think they can fly? You may remember that George Reeves, the actor who played Superman on the TV show The Adventures of Superman, actually killed himself. And some people believe it's because he thought he could fly and jumped out a building. So maybe it's not such a dumb warning at all, after all. Anyways, those are the Friday funnies, a way for us to kind of get into a little happier mood as we move into the weekend. But as I said, some people think this next part of our show is the Friday funnies every week. It's when newspaper editor John McCabe and I get together and kick around some of the stories of the week and whatever else it is we kick around. John is here with us right now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Howard. How are you?
I'm good. It's a Friday. I'm feeling good. Got educating going on in my other room. Teddy is on remote learning today.
Oh, really?
He's on with his schoolmates in there, and I'm on the radio in here.
You had Jerry Seinfeld on, and I used to love Seinfeld. You had that little bit with Seinfeld there a minute ago I was listening to. But you know what's interesting? Did you watch The Office much?
No, I was not a big fan of that. No.
Okay. See, I find The Office to be inherently more funny than Seinfeld could even dream of being. Like, Seinfeld is almost, because, Seinfeld's back on now. It's almost on, 10 or 12 different channels from the beginning,
right.
and including Netflix. And I've tried to watch it, and there are some funny episodes, but it's just, I don't know. I find The Office to be a much more like just good, much better jokes, good humor, and inherently much more funny.
Again, I actually am not a big fan of The Office, but I can hear what you're saying, because I think The Office is a more relatable show.
Maybe.
We watched Jerry and Elaine and Kramer and Seinfeld. But,
George.
Sorry, George.
Yeah.
We didn't, by we, the viewers, we watched them, but I'm not sure that we really related to them, It was fun to watch, but I didn't have a Kramer. It was their lives were so weird and so bizarre. Fun to watch, humorous. I loved it. One of my favorite shows. I think one of the best shows of all time. The Office is more relatable. There's a lot of stuff that happens in The Office that I think people can at least connect to. Say, oh yeah, I know where you're going with that. So I get your point. I think that it may be a good point. What do you think is the greatest comedy of all time?
Wheeling City Government. No. If I really do like The Office a lot. In all honesty, I can watch it any time, any episode, and just kind of it's just kind of mindless humor. So I would probably vote if I had to vote on something. I do like The Office as far as a sitcom goes.
I would probably go with Seinfeld. I'm excluding shows that had social value plus comedy. So All in the Family maybe was an all-around better show, but it wasn't one you just watched just to laugh at. You watched, and then part of your mind you were thinking a little bit as well. Seinfeld was just, and they themselves said it. It was a show about nothing.
Yeah.
And just dumb, stupid stuff. I got a kick. Very well written and very well performed. And I would probably pick that as the best of all time. Unless I'm going to go back to the classic comedies of long ago, the Beverly Hillbillies or something. Those are pretty good.
They were good. I mean, especially for their time. If you think about it, they had Gilligan's Island was pretty darn funny for just a short run.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these shows that are quote classic comedies did have very short runs. They weren't, they weren't like Gunsmoke with 20 years. They sometimes were just 3 years, 4 years,
right? Yeah,
in and out. But they were very popular at the time, and they've lived on after the fact. Well, you said Wheeling City Council.
Yeah.
I was talking about this week. I had Juris Klavanakis on, and I asked him to come on because I liked what he did at council this week, which was he actually explained his vote and talked about the concerns he had. You and I have often talked, John, about how, particularly beginning with Andy McKenzie's term, you didn't hear much discussion or debate on council floor. All the decisions were made, and it was just boom, 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 boom. Jerry stood up this week and said, boy, I've got a lot of concerns about this parking garage funding. I think it's awfully expensive. I'm very concerned about it. Then he talked about how he talked about it with Bob Heron and what he learned from Bob Heron and Vic Greco and so on, and eventually voted for it. But at least we got a sense of where his thought process was coming from, which I don't think we get very often anymore. So I commend him for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what good, a good member of council at any, in any city or, as you move up to the state and federal level, a good public official always should do. It's when you look at the sticker shock of going from, what was, first 11, 12, 13, now, talking $19, million that the city's financing. I think $19.5 million that, again, the city, let's say the taxpayers are financing for this garage. And all council, all the majority of the council members do is sit there and look at each other and vote, aye. It does bring about a level of concern, I think, for most people of, that's a pretty sizable increase in cost, anywhere from, 60 or, 50%, 60% increase in cost. Most projects people do on their homes, you're not, if you go and look at a home and you look at it 2 years later and it's 60% more expensive, you typically don't buy it. Or you find something else. So I think that's, this one has a lot of sticker shock on it, just because of where they were just a few years ago as to where they are now. Now, I understand there's, some reason with the, the core drillings in that area have exposed some problems and different things. But that needs to be, and they did explain a little bit of that. But, I think it's incumbent on council members as they're, the stewards to the public, stewards of public money, when these type of things happen, to give better explanations as to why, and to, as we've written here, and you and I have talked about, the city, if the city doesn't do this project, that building sits empty. The city does do this project. It's a pretty sizable investment of taxpayer funds for a long time. So, it's one of those, you've got to do something if you want to save that, Wheeling Pit building.
If they don't do this project, it may mean the Wheeling-Pittsburgh School renovation doesn't get done either.
Exactly. And so, I'm not going to say the city's backed in a corner because that's not exactly right. But in some ways, but Access Infrastructure is sitting here saying, if you don't do this, we're not going to do this. So what do you do? I mean, is a new parking garage always a terrible thing? No. And we've built new parking garages in the past, so it's not like this is the first time we've ever built a new parking garage. But I think right now, for a lot of people, including some people on, who've spoken to council and Mr. Sklavonakis, how we went from 11 million to 17 million, and there's really been no good explanation from the city publicly as to why that happened, or no debate on council floor over, is there any way we can do this less expensive and still get the goal of what we want? That just doesn't happen. And you said it right. This has been, 12 years now of this, in essence, where council has refused to engage in any public debate, for the most part, at council meetings.
Yeah, I don't like refuse, but they just don't. And you and I have talked about it many times before. We both remember the days of Babe Schmidt or Barry Crow or other council members who always, almost every week, stood up and said, I got a question about this, or tell me a bit more about this, or I'm not sure I understand this. And we don't get much of it. We haven't gotten much of that in recent years. But I thought Sklavonakis was very specific this week about, listen, I have a lot of concerns. I've had them, but I've talked to the city manager. I've talked to Vic Greco. I've talked to a number of other people, and I feel that given all the circumstances we have to weigh, even though I've got concerns, I'm going to vote for it. Ben Seidler didn't go in quite as much detail, but at least he said the same thing. He said, look, I also am concerned about the cost of this building. But in the end, and I know you and I have a disagreement on this, but I think it's a good project for the city. I think it will benefit the city as a whole. I think Wheeling-Pittsburgh Steel being renovated back into living facilities is going to be a huge part of downtown Wheeling. And I like the retail space they're putting inside the parking garage, which will probably make it easier for people to think about opening up a small business there. I think it's a great idea. But I really commend specifically Jerry and also Ben Seidler for raising the question, saying, look, I do have questions. And I did have the same questions. The woman who spoke at council was very...
Julie Chaplin, right? Yep.
Yeah, and they said, look, we have some of these same concerns, but we weigh all of these other things, and we've come down in part of to vote for it.
Sure.
It was a 7-0 vote. I'll tell you that I talked to Mayor Elliott right after that meeting, about half an hour after the meeting, and he was telling me, and he goes, I didn't know it was going to be 7-0. He said, I thought we were going to have some nay votes. So
Howard, just to be this is a project that I believe has to be done. I think and my concerns have been more about the escalating cost, and it's not just here. It's the escalating cost that we see with almost all government projects. And it just doesn't seem that there's ever any concern when a project goes from 11 to 17, 18 million. It's just like, well, we'll just take more money. It was no big deal. And I think that's where it's almost that attitude of, well, it's not real money. It's just we'll just finance more money, and that's what I wish there was more of. Again, so I'll go back and say on the record, I think this is a project that has to be done, because otherwise that building, the Wheeling Pit building, probably does never find another use, and at some point will have to be dealt with, and probably purchased by the city. But I think that the debate here should be over escalating cost in government projects, and just where is more of what Councilman Sklavonakis did? I'm just asking city administrators and the architect for an explanation as to why.
My guess is, and it's actually a pretty educated guess, that other members of council had the same questions and asked them. My point is, too many of these questions get asked off council floor or behind closed doors in private and that's maybe where it should get asked. That's where you do the hard work. But then when the time comes for a vote, I think, and this is a generic comment, not just for this specific thing, I think council members, if they have had concerns, need to say, hey, listen, this was not easy for me. I'm going to vote for it for the good of the city, but I understand the issues that people have. Again, far too often in the last, 12 years, I guess? It's been just those in favor of the proposition say aye, those no, move. We move on.
Right, exactly.
No debate, no discussion.
See, Howard,
so
we agree.
I was
you
just
agree with
pleased
me
with
100% on this. It's perfect.
I'm glad to see that you agree with me.
Awesome.
I really appreciate that. John, let me do a break, and when we come back, a story that I thought we were done with talking about, which is the president at West Liberty University and the Board of Governors and the plagiarism incident. And I thought after last week's discussion and last week's action, it was an issue that we have moved on from, but I guess not. Some movement again this week. We'll talk about that coming up next after we check some news from Metro News right now, right here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Hey, Teddy. Come in, buddy. Oh, you ran into the door again, pal. I heard you saying you want to come see Granddad, and I don't know. Your grandma should know. What does Granddaddy always say about you coming to see me? What do I always say? You come in any time. I don't care if I'm on the radio.
I'm done for my next is 9:30.
9:30? Okay.
At 30 minutes.
All right.
Issues that I want to work on.
Delegates Mick Bates and Jason Barrett have also recently announced their Senate runs. Marshall University plans to offer counseling services today after a student was struck and killed Thursday while crossing an intersection in Huntington. Police say it happened on 3rd Avenue and 18th Street. The student's name has not been released. The owner of Secret Sandwich Society in Fayette County says he plans to break ground soon on a new building at their original location after the structure burned to the ground in a fire last year. You're listening to Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. Electric school buses will soon roll into West Virginia. Leaders in the Kanawha Valley gathered Thursday to showcase a Thomas zero-emissions bus that company sales manager Greg Webb believes is the future.
I think it's going to go a long way, and I think over the next couple years, I think we'll see a big, huge spike in orders and deliveries.
Officials say the bipartisan infrastructure bill being discussed in Congress includes portions of funding that could be used for electric school transportation across the country. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Carrie Hudasek.
High school football Thursday night, pretty good night for Wheeling Central. Central won 55-17 over Oak Glen. If you missed Thursday night football in the National Football League, not a whole lot of defense. The Colts beat the Jets 45-30. Quarterback Carson Wentz of Indianapolis completed 23 of 30 for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns.
100%. When I can turn around, we have, one play drive for, I think JT took it 75 or something like that. Those are the best drives in football for a quarterback. When you can just turn around and give it to a guy, and whatever the total number of 200-plus rushing yards today.
And it was a pretty good night for Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, 19 carries for 172 yards and 2 TDs. The Colts improved to 4-5. The Jets, struggling Jets, dropped to 2-6. Steelers will host the Chicago Bears Monday night. But an interesting AFC North matchup will take place Sunday as the Cleveland Browns will visit the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow having a great season. He's already thrown 20 TD passes.
I mean, almost every single team has struggled to run the ball against them. They're tough inside, and they do a really good job of keeping everything in front of them. So we're going to have a good plan. We're going to have to be ready to go as we do it every week.
Now with Cleveland, there are a lot of distractions. So let's hear from quarterback Baker Mayfield.
So it comes down to realizing our priorities. Our job is to go out there and do anything we can to win. And we have to be focused because Cincinnati's playing well right now.
Pens at home Thursday night beat the Flyers of Philadelphia in overtime 3-2. Chris Letang with the game-winning goal in OT.
It's a nice one, especially that we can't really control what's happening. It's not like guys are getting injured right now. It's just we're testing positive, and even if guys are feeling good, they cannot play.
Saturday night, the Penguins will host the Minnesota Wild. MLB note, Giants catcher, maybe a future Hall of Famer, Buster Posey, retired from baseball, 34 years old, spent 12 years with San Francisco. Posey was a 7-time All-Star and earned 3 World Series rings. That should put him in the Hall of Fame. I'm Bill DeFabio on sports, and we are the Watchdog and your voice in the Ohio Valley.
Hi, this is Hoppy Kercheval. Join me weekdays at 10:06, right after the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe for Statewide Talkline. I'll have guests, conversations, texts, phone calls, and all the big stories affecting West Virginia.
for an all-cash offer, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
Hello, I'm Chuck Reddick, Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. We're working hard to get ready for tax filing season. You know who else is working hard? Identity thieves. Keep your computers and your mobile phones secure. Use antivirus software and strong passwords. Look out for email scams. Secure your home Wi-Fi with a password. Stay safe when you shop online. Look for HTTPS in the web address. See irs.gov for details.
Friday nights in the fall are reserved for high school football, and the 20-year tradition continues on Metro News. It's Summit Community Bank High School Game Night with Fred Persinger and Dave Jecklin, celebrating 20 years of bringing you up-to-the-minute scores, conference standings, player and coach interviews, and more. Tune in all season long to follow your favorite school. Friday nights from 9:30 to midnight. Summit Community Bank High School Game Night on this Metro News station.
Keep up with the ever-changing world of sports all night long. Sports Map Radio is on the Watchdog, FM 98.1, AM 1600.
Here's a look at the Ohio Valley local news week in review with newspaper editor John McCabe and Howard Monroe.
It's 9:37:23 till the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. 27 degrees pretty much across the board. Sunny outside. That's good. Clear skies. Going to be sunny and close to 50 today. Sunny and into the 50s for most of the weekend. John McCabe is here with me from the local newspapers, newspaper editor. John, I really thought last week we had kind of finished up the Franklin Evans story at West Liberty University. Allegations of plagiarism. He admitted them. The Board of Governors took a vote to terminate him. That didn't pass. Then they took a vote to discipline him. That did pass. And I thought that was pretty much it, but I guess not.
Yeah. The board met Wednesday and immediately went behind closed doors and came out and censured President Evans. And will, as part of that public censure, will require him to develop and implement campus-wide a new academic integrity policy, and and we'll see where it goes from here. And I think that, the board again expressed its extreme disapproval, which is essentially what a censure is, in Evans' actions for. And this is it's terminology we all use, but I think everyone needs to stop using allegedly plagiarizing speeches. He's admitted to it, so the allegedly has gone away.
He plagiarized.
It's factual now. He admitted he did that, and it's been proven that he did that. So, he plagiarized speeches, and now we'll have to again craft a policy for the campus to learn from this, which I think is a good move, but I also kind of question, and I've seen others question, the guy who violated essentially the academic integrity policy is now being tasked with developing one. So there's a little bit of something there.
Excuse me, what, John? The old saying, "Who better to develop security for your house?" But the burglar, right?
Well, I wouldn't call him a burglar, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
You all right there, Howard?
Talk about this. Oh, Biff, can you turn the mic off for a minute? Let John prattle for a second.
God, I think I got him choked up.
Yeah, he seemed a little choked up. So let's hope he's okay. But no, you there back now?
There he is.
I
think we got him.
Oh, we didn't get enough time to talk about you, darn it.
It is something you and I had talked about that one of the problems that they had when this issue came to light is there are written policies about plagiarism for students.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
There is a specific policy. If a student plagiarizes and it's proven, there are defined things that happen to them per policy. Most academic authors have policies they have to follow if they're going to publish a paper and so on. But the administration, there was no policy there. There was nothing that said, well, if the administration is involved in plagiarism, then these things happen,
Right.
or plagiarism is off limits. It just wasn't there. So actually, this is a positive thing to come out of this.
Sure,
is to have
sure.
a policy about it.
And again, and I know I keep harping on this, and maybe I just, I'm like a broken record with it, but I really think, if Evans wants to get past, if he wants to do more than keep a job for the next couple years and just kind of, hold his head low and not be an effective president, I mean, he can choose that path and just hope it goes away, which I don't think it's going to. But if he wants to move ahead, he needs to do more than just come up with a new policy. As you and I have talked, he needs to get out, be active, be proactive with the entire campus in talking about this issue, the pitfalls of it, the challenges today, and how easy this can happen. I mean, you and I are in this business, and we know how easy it can happen. I mean, you preach up at the Dillonvale Church, and now there's questions being raised not only nationwide as to whether ministers should attribute where they get their material from, which typically you don't. Because it's just basic doctrine, but now, so these things are this is part of a bigger conversation that's happening across the country. And Franklin Evans, quite frankly, right now is in a position because of what happened to him and what's happening now to really make a difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. He issued a statement after the censure, and I suppose it's correct, but I always hate I can't talk about it because it's a personal matter.
Yeah. He can talk
about
it.
I'm unable to address any specifics contained in the issues handled by the board as they are personnel matters.
See, no,
but they're your personnel matters.
Exactly.
I would think you could talk about it. So
he could talk about it. The board can't talk about it, but he can talk about it.
Right. It would seem to me that's the case.
Yes.
Then he goes on in his statement to talk about his sense of great responsibility for his position, and then takes a look at all the successes that he's achieved, the university has achieved, and that's all well and good, but I don't know. I wish he had maybe been more direct about referencing the incidents that happened and the censure and so on. But so is this it? Are we done now?
I would think for now at least. I think the only unless something else appears, which I'm sure there are members of the faculty senate who continue to, I don't want to say maybe actively look, but are going to be on guard with everything that he does and says for a while, until he until he either rebuilds that trust or his contract expires and maybe he moves on. But I hope for the sake of the campus, that campus that ran you and I off, as some of your texters like to say, but for the sake of that campus, I hope it's done. This has been a 6-week distraction from the primary goal up there of educating young minds to for the future. That's an important one that needed to be addressed once it came up. And as I mentioned earlier, and we've talked, it's a part of a larger conversation that's happening around the nation right now. But again, when a university is just like what you and I do, it's all based on trust. And once you lose that trust, once that trust is called into question because of actions of someone like the college president, you've got to work very hard to regain that, and it's not easy to regain the public's trust. So the burden is really now, I think, on the administration and the board to, again, not just hope this goes away.
I think there were a few stutter steps in the beginning of this whole thing, but once they got their footing, I thought the Board of Governors did handle it fairly well and directly. I mean, they didn't try, again, it was a little bit, I don't want to say slow. I'm not sure in the beginning they really got how serious an issue it was going to become. But they grasped that fairly quickly, and the board, I thought, handled it well. They didn't dodge it. They did it directly. Yes, they were personnel meetings, so they were behind closed doors, but they didn't keep any of the final results secret or anything. So I give the board credit for having tackled this in as positive a way as you can. And like I say, really the onus now is on President Evans to see where he goes. Quarter before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. John, we talked about Wheeling Council this week, and one of the big things, of course, was approving the $19.5 million financing for the parking garage. A few other things were there as well. But it was interesting in the public hearing, not public hearing, but the public comment section of the meeting, they heard from one of their own water customers who said, we ain't paying our bill.
Yeah, really kind of an unexpected and interesting discussion from the solicitor of Donegal Township, Pennsylvania, which has for 40 years been a water customer of the city of Wheeling. So the water is, it's piped to Donegal Township. Donegal Township has a contract with the city of Wheeling, pays a bill. The customers there drink the same water and use the same water that you and I do from the city's water treatment plant. Well, so April of last year, the contract with Donegal Township expired. And okay, COVID was everyone was home in April. COVID's happening. You don't expect the contract maybe to necessarily be dealt with then. But here we are 18, 19 months later, and that contract still has not been, according to Donegal Township, been addressed at all. The solicitor, Lane Turterice, has been sending letters to the city's water department, legal department, apparently, and has not gotten a single response. So the Donegal Township supervisors, I believe there's 5 of them, their method to deal with this and to get Wheeling's attention was to say, okay, we're not paying our bill. and so that leads us to where we're at now. But it's just an interesting, this is a similar situation in some ways to what we saw last year with the Ohio County Board of Education allowing a contract with the Ohio County Sheriff's Department for PROs to expire for 6-8 months, and without much in the way of communication as to when it was going to, when talks were going to happen. And again, much as we saw there, Sheriff Tom Howard's response was, well, we're just not going to provide PROs for a day to get your attention. And it did, and it led to, a change for the, for the school board. But, this one is, I'm just going to say it's concerning. It's been an awkward last year and a half. But, you would think at some point between April 2020 and November of 2021, someone from the city of Wheeling would have made contact with Donegal Township to say, hey, we're going to keep you going at your current rates, no big deal, and we'll in January, let's get together, we'll start working out a new contract. Because here's the reality.
It's the lack of any kind of communication that just...
Exactly.
If what we heard from the Donegal Township solicitor is correct, and I can assume it is, nothing. You're right. A simple phone call say, you know what? It's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle, or we haven't done it, but and they are, and the water is still being provided. We should point that out.
Yes, exactly.
Cut them off. So we're just let it go, and we'll figure out the new contract come January. Just some kind of communication. I see in the story in the newspaper that the water superintendent, Lori Seibert, says, I'm really not sure why he's all wound up about it. He seemed to be upset about not having a contract. We're still providing service. We do their billing. We take care of their paperwork. Yeah, but, I got to tell you, speaking for myself, in any aspect of my life, if I have a contract of some kind and it's expired, and I'm going, okay, well, I keep on paying it, but, are you going to, somehow are you going to get me down the road? I mean, I'm not saying that that's the case. You want the contract to either be resolved or be told, don't worry about it, we're going to continue the current contract.
I think
something
that to me is just the failure here. It's somewhere along the line is just no communication with Donegal Township. I mean, Wheeling has had a lot of things happening with its water system in the last 18, 19 months. Some big increases to help pay for projects. It does look like the city of Wheeling does the billing for residential customers there. So, but you're exactly right. As a business owner, as a public body, and that contract lapses, and you don't have, it's not that you don't have the new contract, but you just don't, apparently have any communication whatsoever, even though you're calling and sending letters. You do start to worry of, okay, what's going to happen one day when I go to turn on the tap and nothing comes out for anyone, because we're going to be the ones who take the heat for that, not the city of Wheeling. So I think there's, hopefully this will spur, and I would assume this will quickly spur a new contract to be wrapped up with the folks in Donegal Township, as it should have been at some point in the last 19 months. Again, April 2020, we can give a pass because everyone was home and we were not sure what was going to happen with COVID. But at some point between then and now, the city. The city has a duty to them as a customer to reach out, because again, if you're an insurance company, you don't hear anything for 2 years from your insurance company. You just keep paying your bill, and you're supposed to have contact with them at some point along the way. There are, as that customer, you're worried that, okay, what's going on here? Why am I not getting any correspondence whatsoever? Are they trying to find a way to work out of this?
I'm thinking if I am leasing property, for example, renting office space. And then the office space, then the contract is over, the lease is done, and I hear nothing from the landlord. Okay, I'll keep writing my checks and they keep cashing them, so I guess that means we're okay. But it also means that at any moment they could say, you're done. So
yeah.
I'm not suggesting that's the case here. I think this is just some kind of misunderstanding. This is not a crisis of some kind, but it is an interesting insight into how things operate sometimes.
It is, and again, I think it just also just goes back to what you hear a lot of times of concerns about, not concerns, but complaints about government of not being responsive to residents, in this case to a customer. Again, if this was a 1 month thing, it would be one thing. But when you go 19 months with no communication, Donegal Township has a responsibility to its residents to be concerned that this hasn't been addressed or at least even discussed.
All right, John, good roundtable today. We'll do it again next week, and I'll probably talk to you sometime before then.
Thanks, Howard. Take it easy.
Talk to you soon. Newspaper editor John McCabe checking in this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show every Friday. It is the Friday Roundtable. He and I kick around some of the big stories of the week. We don't get to everything every week, but then again, Biffy, I didn't get to everything this morning anyways. I have so many things I wanted to do today.